General.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it gives me great pleasure to respond to the contribution made by the Leader of the Opposition, the member for Siparia. Let me start by saying, Madam Speaker, that the government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, which is led by the Honourable Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley as its Prime Minister, stands for the peace and prosperity of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. We stand for democracy and we stand for the rule of law. And I wish to immediately treat with the fact that 95% of what the Leader of the Opposition had to say was just simply untruthful. And I propose to address this by way of reference to facts, Madam Speaker. The Leader of the Opposition regaled us with the length of time that she has spent in this Honourable House, saying that she had been here for nearly 27 years. And for someone who enjoys that amount of tenure, permit me to say it is scandalous for the Leader of the Opposition to present untruths for the consumption of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. In fact, Madam Speaker, it is my submission that the Leader of the Opposition simply intends to ensure that there is unease and ungovernability in Trinidad and Tobago. And I will demonstrate why I say this conclusively. Madam Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition had...
Madam Speaker, 48-6 imputed improper motives on the member for Siparia.
Please proceed.
Madam Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition had close to 4 hours to respond. Barely made it to 2 hours, and by my estimation spent nearly 1 hour on me, the Attorney General of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. That, in my short 11 years in the Parliament, was the first time that I saw a Leader of an Opposition, in reply to a budget speech, spend so much time on one person. I was not alone. There was a significant amount of time spent on my colleague, Minister Stuart Young, the member for Port of Spain North, St. Anne's West. It is important to note, Madam Speaker, that this budget, which proposes close to $9.1 billion in deficit, $52 billion odd in expenditure, $43.4 billion in revenue. This budget has been built upon very clear statements of fact. So the Leader of the Opposition says that there were no revenue-generating proposals set out in the budget. Let's treat with that. Is it incomprehensible for the Honourable member for Siparia, the Leader of the Opposition, to understand that the efficiency of a revenue authority, which the member has said will be challenged by her, that the efficiency of a revenue authority will allow for the people of Trinidad and Tobago, without paying any much more by way of elevation of taxes, approximately the receipt of $8 billion extra per year will come into the coffers of this country. $500 million per year will come from the gaming regime. Approximately $500 million will come from property tax. And Madam Speaker, when the Leader of the Opposition seeks to reinvent reality by saying that under her leadership as Prime Minister, not a single tax was imposed, I say that is grossly untrue. Because, Madam Speaker, the records of Hansard by the Minister of Finance, Larry Hawaii, will demonstrate that Minister of Finance Hawaii implemented the property tax and informed the country that it would begin with residential, moving into industrial. And it is therefore a fabrication of reality for the Leader of the Opposition to now come to the country and pretend that her government did not do that. The leader of the opposition did not remove value-added tax. The leader of the opposition, when as Prime Minister, supervised a 15% rate of value-added tax. This government reduced that rate to 12.5%. The leader of the opposition watched the working poor, when as Prime Minister, have tax relief at a figure which was $6,000 per year, such that people who earned above $6,000 per month were subjected to taxation. This government removed hundreds of thousands of people from that jeopardy by raising it to $7,000 per year. So, Madam Speaker, on very basic factors alone, I must reject what the leader of the opposition says. Madam Speaker, when the leader of the opposition seeks to trivialize the targeted relief for the vulnerable by way of cash payments for fuel, for electricity, and for water, the leader of the opposition says that rich people in this country should enjoy a concession when it is really the vulnerable that ought to have that concession. If you can afford to pay, you should pay. And there is nothing wrong with that. That is why many countries have a progressive rate of taxation depending upon income brackets. And that's why we in our country have a progressive rate of taxation as well. As I've said, persons who are under $7,000 per month in salary are not taxed. Certain persons receive 25% taxation rate, others 30% taxation rate, others 35% taxation rate, or $1 million taxes. So, Madam Speaker, that is just reinvention. Now, Madam Speaker, permit me to address the leader of the opposition talking about Tobago in the glancing way that she did, in talking about the position of development. I asked the leader of the opposition, where are the 5 hotels that she is now telling the country the government has said is going to be built? Where are they? Fabrication. I asked the leader of the opposition, since when was sandals going to be sold to sandals? When the facts are that the government will have been in the position of building that sandals facility, all of it, and sandals would merely be a brand operator on the hotel. I asked the leader of the opposition, where was it ever said that a piece of land that you could only see at low tide, referred to as no man's land, in Tobago was going to be the site of a hotel? And I asked the leader of the opposition, where in any one of her contributions has there been anything other than an attack on public-private partnership arrangements or government consortium arrangements? You see, Madam Speaker, the phrase 1% flows out of the leader of the opposition on a continuous basis. That is not a subtle term. That is laced with classism. That is laced with race reference by some. And Madam Speaker,
Madam Speaker,
the point is,
Madam Speaker, 48.6 imputing improper motives. There's no indication of any racism.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. No jack in the box will disturb me today. Madam Speaker, the fact is, the attack on investment in this country flowed into the leader of the opposition's attack today. The leader of the opposition failed to reflect the privatization of the port and the revenue to be earned from that. The leader of the opposition failed to recognize the privatization of the CL Marine facility into shipbuilding and structures. The leader of the opposition failed to recognize the development of the Southwest Peninsula into the manner that the government has entered with the government of China. The leader of the opposition went on a mission of scandalization, gross misrepresentation, recent fabrication. Now, Madam Speaker, let me ask the leader of the opposition. The leader of the opposition says that there was no reference to ease of doing business. Whilst the Leader of the Opposition is well aware that the ministry which I have had the management of for the last 6 years, the Office of the Attorney General and Ministry of Legal Affairs, has been at the leading edge of digitization, land registry, companies registry, births and deaths. But the Leader of the Opposition, whilst as leader of this country and Prime Minister, could not even be bothered to take the first step to ease of doing business. And you know what that is, Madam Speaker? The first step is making sure you could pay for the services online. What's the point of Prime Minister Kamla Prasad Bisesa's tenure in saying there was a move for ease of doing business by filing forms online at the company's registry when you have to print the forms, walk down to the company's registry, wait in a line to pay $25 to unlock the transaction? Madam Speaker, these are not things that are to come. They are already in place, that this government has put into effect the electronic payment mechanisms across multiple ministries and entities. The judiciary is almost completely digitized. There's no need to even attend at in-person trials. Electronic filings are a feature of the norm of this country. And whilst the Leader of the Opposition seeks to fabricate her way into a UNC la-la land, all that I will say, Madam Speaker, is that the black and white presentations in the budget demonstrate the inaccuracies of the Leader of the Opposition, the simple untruths told to the nation. Madam Speaker, I can tell you in terms of job creation that it is not lost that the budget speaks to the employment of persons at the Board of Inland Revenue, over 100 professionals, that the judiciary has accounted for almost 1,000 jobs across various phases in terms of our development, that the Ministry of Digitization treats with jobs. My colleague, Minister Foster Cummings, will treat with the employment growth inside of the youth development arm. The Minister of Trade has detailed reference to the number of jobs created. I would just like to say that all of that, Madam Speaker, puts answer to the untruths spoken to us. So, Madam Speaker, let me get a little bit pointed now, because I did start by referencing the fact that the Leader of the Opposition spent nearly half her time in her budget presentation in an ode to Faris Al-Rawi. The Leader of the Opposition went into details about vehicle purchases and sales, went into the Police Service Commission, went into letters that have been written to foreign authorities, went into indemnity statements, went into A&V drilling, and therefore I am compelled to answer as I do now, also addressing her claim about being the government's landlord, listing properties, listing rentals. And permit me to now sharply address the comments of the Leader of the Opposition. Madam Speaker, what is it that will bring a leader of an opposition, a past Prime Minister, to this August House on the day of a reply to a budget in a COVID pandemic, to have the Leader of the Opposition make direct references to a main witness in criminal proceedings? It is a matter of public record that I am a main witness in certain matters before the court involving persons who once held office under the Leader of the Opposition, senior cabinet members, and a past Attorney General. The Leader of the Opposition said today that there was a scandal in the Police Service Commission and laid blame at the feet of the Office of the Attorney General, me. Madam Speaker, it is a matter of record, without going into the matters before the courts, that there were amendments to the Police Service Commission appointment procedure. Those amendments were approved after advice from senior counsel, after cabinet approval, after parliamentary approval, and that a matter went to court which did not involve the attack on the order produced by my office. What was asked, as the Leader of the Opposition addressed it, but let me put it into truth now, what was asked in the court by Anand Ramlogan, Senior Counsel, and Jayanti Lakshmial, Senator, was for an interpretation of the Constitution. There is no attack on any legislation.
Madam Speaker, I rise on 48 to are these matters that are sub judice as they are matters before the court?
Member, I will allow it. Those matters were raised. It does not deal with anything that is not in the public domain. Those matters were raised in the Leader Opposition presentation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You see, this causes a little discomfort, so let me explore that. So, Madam Speaker, it is a matter of public record, traversed in the newspapers every day, that there is no challenge to the constitutionality or lawfulness or legality of the order which I, as Attorney General, piloted against a motion of negativing in the Senate. None, there is no challenge. And the Leader of the Opposition misrepresented to the Parliament and to the nation today that there was some ineptitude or unconstitutionality in the order that the government brought to the Parliament. Madam Speaker, the court will decide the fate of what the Constitution says, and that's a matter for the decision of the court. Madam Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition went into details about a car, made direct reference to a letter that she supposedly has from the Integrity Commission's files. And I want to remind this nation that there is a law that makes it a criminal offense for breach of secrecy at the Integrity Commission. And I would like to know how the Leader of the Opposition is allegedly in possession or in fact in possession of files from the Integrity Commission. But more importantly, Madam Speaker, I want to address what the Leader of the Opposition said. You see, the Leader of the Opposition made a bold statement that I, Faris Al-Rawi, had failed to disclose matters to the Integrity Commission. And I wish to read, Madam Speaker, from the Integrity Commission declaration of submissions on the Integrity Commission Integrity in Public Life Act 2000. Every person in public life is obliged to fill out a Form A and a Form B. And as a matter of record from the written and filed documents in my hand, the copies of them now, I can tell you that at item 6, here is what is described and filed at the Integrity Commission. Porsche Cayenne PCS 84, in whose name held, declarant Faris Al-Rawi, $600,000, proceeds of sale, sold, and it's under the item, description of any assets sold. So when the Leader of the Opposition comes here to tell a gross untruth, I am telling you now as a matter of record at the Integrity Commission, I have made all my declarations in writing, and the records of the Integrity Commission will show that. But Madam Speaker, this is the same Leader of the Opposition who has come to this Parliament before. I want to remind you that it was Kamla Prasad Bisesa, as a member of the House, that came to read out chapter and verse on Dhanraj Singh in a fabrication that ended up in exoneration of persons whom she raised allegations against. So there is a pattern on the records of the Parliament which demonstrate that the Leader of the Opposition just simply cannot be relied on to tell the truth. Let's go further. Madam Speaker, it's a matter of record that the Integrity Commission wrote to me on January 29, 2021. And in that, asked me to confirm that the sale of that same vehicle, PCY 84, declared to them since 2016, was to be included under the heading Gains and Profits, Disposal of Motor Vehicle. It is a matter of record at the Integrity Commission that I replied on the 26th of February 2021, confirming that inquiry. Now, Madam Speaker, Mrs. Prasad Bisesa, the member for Siparia, has to tell this country whether she has information that has been illegally obtained from the Integrity Commission in breach of the laws of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, because not for Section 55 of the Constitution.
The Attorney General is imputing that the Leader of the Opposition got information illegally.
I overrule. I overrule.
Yes, Madam Speaker, let me repeat this. The Leader of the Opposition gave a date, gave a letter that I wrote to the Integrity Commission, and the Leader of the Opposition has come under the cloak of parliamentary privilege under Section 55 of the Constitution, cloaked with parliamentary privilege, and I am asking the question whether the Leader of the Opposition has breached the laws of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. And what I am saying further, Madam Speaker, from what I have just read out, is that the Leader of the Opposition's fabrication and untruth is to be addressed by the fact that everything was declared, Madam Speaker, and the records show that. Madam Speaker, let's go on to the Leader of the Opposition's position that I am the landlord of the government. Madam Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition referred to 4 properties owned by companies which relatives of my wife have interest in. Let's deal with them. She mentioned Agra Street property that is rented by the Office of the Commissioner of Police. Madam Speaker, that building was rented by the efforts of one John Humphrey in a UNC government. Madam Speaker, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition mentioned a property at St. Vincent Street in Port of Spain, where the Ministry of Social Development is. That property was rented in the year 2000 under a UNC government that then presided after and occupied and paid rent for 21 years later. Now, the Leader of the Opposition comes to impugn that. The Leader of the Opposition mentioned 1 Alexandra Street, rented between 2009 and 2010, some 11 years ago, when the Leader of the Opposition paid to outfit that building in a scandalous arrangement that saw a division between 2 ministers, the Minister of Local Government, Marlene Coudray, refusing to authorize what she said publicly to be a corrupt deal to outfit the building. All of this occurred under Kamla Prasad Bisesa as the Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Madam Speaker, in January 2012, my own records in my possession demonstrate that then Minister of Housing, then the Honourable Rudal Munilal, wrote to me asking for the rental of number 3 Alexandra Street. Madam Speaker, so let me put it in summary. It is ludicrous for the Leader of the Opposition to pretend that rentals of properties were occasioned and taken under the UNC government, and that she is talking about members of my wife's family who have been in business with the government since 1975. And the minister, the Leader of the Opposition, is also not telling the country that under her prime ministership, Jack Warner rented properties to members of his family, Jerry Hadid had members of his family, Kamla Prasad Bisesa's members of family, all received rentals from the government. Now, Madam Speaker, let me go a little bit further. By way of letter dated October 9th, 2020 from the Integrity Commission to me, Faris Al-Rawi, I was informed that one Emir Crown, acting on behalf of an activist, had made a complaint that the rental of 3 Alexandra Street was against the Integrity in Public Life Act. And I'm reading from the letter that the Integrity Commission wrote to me. He was this is reference to Dr. Crown, he was also informed that the Commission was satisfied that the relevant criterion and protocols leading up to the Cabinet decision for the leasing by the government of number 3 Alexandra Place had all been met and observed respectively by all persons in public life or exercising public function connected therewith. In other words, the Commission found no evidence of any breach of the Act as regards the processes and protocols followed, and which ultimately led to the decision by the Cabinet for the leasing by the government of number 3 Alexandra Place from Zaman Enterprises Limited. And listen to this. Finally, he was informed that you, meaning me, Faris Al-Rawi, had dutifully observed all the requirements of Section 14(3) of the Act, meaning the Integrity in Public Life Act. Madam Speaker, let's get to the real elephant in the room. Madam Speaker, I wish to inform publicly today that I had cause to write the Attorney General of the United Kingdom, the Honourable Suella Braverman, QC MP, in relation to whistleblowing testimony provided to the government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, in relation to criminal proceedings in the government of Trinidad and Tobago, and in relation to ongoing criminal proceedings in the United Kingdom. And I have had cause to tell the Attorney General of the United Kingdom of the details of the cooperation of the government of Trinidad and Tobago and my office as Attorney General, and by my hand as Attorney General, in working with the National Crime Agency and the Crown Prosecution Services of the United Kingdom. And I can say publicly now, there are active, ongoing matters in the United Kingdom as a result of whistleblowing testimony provided to the government of Trinidad and Tobago, which was given to the United Kingdom authorities, and that if I was Mrs. Prasad Bisesa, I would be shaking in my boots right now. Let me repeat that. If I was Mrs. Prasad Bisesa, the member for Siparia, I would be mortally afraid of what is being investigated by the British authorities. And Madam Speaker, I would like to address the further elephant in the room. There is no coincidence that 1 hour of the Leader of the Opposition speech was spent on me in the exercise of my holding office and personal matters.
Please continue.
Yes, Madam Speaker. You see, the Prime Minister often tells me that because I am such a careful Attorney General that the population does not know the truth. So today from this podium, in this Parliament, I'm being very careful to inform the nation that Mrs. Prasad Bisesa, the Leader of the Opposition, the member for Siparia, should be extremely afraid of the matters that are in the hands of the British authorities. And let me go further. Madam Speaker, in the cross-jurisdictional exercise, there are further matters with the Dutch government that are occupying attention that Mrs. Prasad Bisesa should be very afraid of as well. And Madam Speaker, when you connect the dots publicly, attack Faris on a car sold in 2016, because the licensing authority can't find a record. And for the record, let me say this. Copies of the transfer documentation, the fact of personal attendance at the licensing authority, the checks which were paid, the integrity in public life declarations, all have been provided. So that's attack the car, attack the person, Faris Al-Rawi, property rental, Mr. Recusal. I want to ask the Leader of the Opposition, since when is it improper to abide by the Integrity in Public Life Act? When is it improper for Minister Young to abide by the Integrity in Public Life Act, or Minister Imbert, or any one of us that properly recuse ourselves just in case the Integrity in Public Life Act says that you ought to have. So attack Faris, attack the person, attack the car, but Madam Speaker, there is an attempt to attack the witness. And Madam Speaker, it is a matter of record that the laws of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago prohibit witness tampering. There are attacks on the attorney at law for the state's main witness in whistleblowing proceedings by the leader of the opposition. It is a breach of the law in witness tampering to affect an officer of the court in the discharge of his duties. And I'd like to tell the leader of the opposition, reports have been made to the police, investigative authorities, and international agencies, as I have informed the National Crime Agency of exactly what Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar is doing.
The member is continuing to impute improper motives to the leader of the opposition.
Honourable Member, this point has been raised 3-4 times. What I recall, certain matters were raised by the previous speaker. They are being answered. I once again overrule. Member, please have a seat. Please have a seat.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. See, Madam Speaker, I allow the leader of the opposition to speak uninterrupted, knowing that it is proper to reply. And I'm replying from facts now, Madam Speaker. Facts, and not in an improper way. Madam Speaker, what is it that someone holds over the head of the leader of the opposition, so as to...
No, I want you to rule on that, Madam.
Overruled.
What is it that someone holds over the leader of the opposition such that improper... Madam Speaker, let me explain to you what the law says. The case of Nankisoon Budram sets out in law when it is the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions ought to be concerned about pre-trial publicity. And Madam Speaker, I can say this. The repeated excursions into matters addressing witnesses before court, impugning the character of witnesses before the court, impugning the office holders in the exercise of their duties in the public forum are calculated, some say, to trip the fair trial process so that you would get a case thrown out of court. And Madam Speaker, I ask the question now, is Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar's obsession with me, shrine built to me, in the position that I hold as holder of the Office of the Attorney General, is it designed to encourage undue public publicity such as to affect a fair trial in matters that she is concerned about?
Madam Speaker, 48.6, the Attorney General is imputing improper motives on the member for superior.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, when you get unmasked, it's hard to accept, you know. I expect nothing less from the Honourable Member for Barataria San Juan. I couldn't expect him to find this argument attractive the same way I couldn't expect him to find where the main ridge in Tobago was. You see, Madam Speaker, if you just don't have the ability to follow the argument, it requires explanation. So I'm explaining, Madam Speaker. I am saying, Madam Speaker, that there is a dedicated, consistent attempt to interrupt trials in this country for which people have serious allegations to answer, Madam Speaker. I am not interested in guilt or innocence. I am interested in due process. And when the leader of the opposition talks about standing for democracy, Madam Speaker, the fact is democracy is built on the rule of law. And as the holder of the Office of the Attorney General and Ministry of Legal Affairs, as I manage it, I am obliged to tell the country Watch them corky eye. Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, may I ask what time full-time ends?
2:05.
Much obliged. 2:05. Madam Speaker, having addressed those matters, I will just simply say, fabrication, that there are no declarations to the Integrity Commission as I was bound to do, all declared to the Integrity Commission in relation to sale of any vehicle I had. Fabrication to say that I have failed to carry out my duties under the motor vehicle and road traffic legislation. All matters are before the Commissioner of Transport. All evidence is there demonstrating it, declared fully in the public domain and to the Integrity Commission. Fabrication, that when I became Attorney General, all of a sudden properties were rented to from family members of mine. When the records show 22 years ago, 20 years ago, 11 years ago, and since 1974, persons have legitimately been in my family connection engaged in business with the government, as many people are, as Darian Warner was, as Jerry Hadid was, as members of Kamala Prasad-Bissesa's family were and are. Madam Speaker, caution to be observed on witness tampering and what can be perceived to be efforts by many to cause a trial to be thrown out because of breach of fair process, serious criminal proceedings. Madam Speaker, I say it again, the leader of the opposition is understandably on very nervous footing. And if I were the Honourable Leader of the Opposition, I would be extremely worried about what criminal prosecutorial authorities have to say in other jurisdictions and here. So, Madam Speaker, permit me now to deal in the couple of minutes I have with what the budget has dealt with for the city of San Fernando. You see, Madam Speaker, unlike my friends opposite, San Fernando West does not start and stop in Gulfview. Members of the opposition see the boundaries of San Fernando West as the four corner walls of the area known as Gulfview. I would invite members of the UNC, whomever they are, to be brave enough to come into all of San Fernando West. And I would like to thank the Minister of Finance and the Honourable Prime Minister in particular, who spent the day in San Fernando with me on Tuesday of this week, touring the redevelopment and further development of San Fernando. And in our budget, in the presentation made by the Minister of Finance, in the 10 documents that constitute the budget, Madam Speaker, you will notice that the San Fernando redevelopment is faster paced. But Madam Speaker, it would be remiss of me, permit me to stick a pin on this for a moment and not deal with the AV oil matter, because I've just recalled. Madam Speaker, I want to remind you, the Leader of the Opposition put a gross untruth on the record, saying that the government did not appeal the decision of the arbitrators in time. Number one, there was no deadline for arbitration appeal. Number two, Madam Speaker, the arbitrators were Lord Hope from the Privy Council, Byron, ex-president of the CCJ, and Justice of Appeal retired Stallmeyer, all three of whom unanimously held that the evidence that was presented and allegations made about that company AV Drilling and the so-called fake oil were completely rejected. They said that the evidence was improper and they rejected the evidence. Madam Speaker, for the Leader of the Opposition to forget that she is the one that brought this issue and label of fake oil to the Parliament is incredible, you know. Madam Speaker, it's a matter of record that the chairman of that company, Mr. Kwamina, took the care and caution to obtain written advice from Simon Hughes, Queen's Counsel, and Mr. Nelson, Senior Counsel, Ralston Nelson, both of whom said that the matter was unappealable and collapsed on the basis of evidence. It is not lost upon me that Mrs. Prasad-Bissessa has been called out by Mr. Ramesh Lawrence Maharaj as the subject of defamation proceedings that will be ensued, if not already ensued. And Madam Speaker, for the Leader of the Opposition to come here today and try and pretend that something improper was done is unacceptable when the evidence has been transparently laid before the nation. Madam Speaker, I return to San Fernando. Madam Speaker, in San Fernando, we have 11 HDC communities, comprising some 8,500 people. We have approximately 2,000 to 3,000 squatters in San Fernando. We have 25,000 people registered to vote in San Fernando West. So you understand the numbers there. Madam Speaker, when you witness a government in this budget ensuring that the magistrates' court is built for some $75 million, ensuring that a fishing port is built at the San Fernando waterfront, ensuring that a boardwalk is built like they have here in Port of Spain by the Hyatt for the people of San Fernando to have leisure and business and opportunity, ensuring that the PTSC bus yard is moved and that some $750 million, $750 million, can be spent on housing in San Fernando West. When San Fernando West witnesses a Ministry of Works site along that same waterfront, vacated and demolished already for the building of hundreds of houses. When San Fernando West witnesses the redevelopment of Skinner Park, the last time Skinner Park had any attention was under Errol Mahabir 40 years ago. Madam Speaker, $120 million in Phase A. When San Fernando West looks at the completion of the sewage treatment plant to allow for us to have sanitation, the relaying of all of the water mains, etc., coming from Rushworth Street onto Todd Street onto the waterfront. When San Fernando West witnesses the redevelopment of the parking facilities at the San Fernando General Hospital, the reclamation of 3.8 hectares of land by a site that is already moving and mobilized, Madam Speaker, to the tune of billions of dollars. When San Fernando West witnesses hundreds of housing village improvement program houses being built for whom I call the invisible. Madam Speaker, you know who the invisible is? The invisible is a squatter who does not own his or her land, who can't go to the bank to mortgage it, who doesn't have a roof over his or her head for his or her family. I asked Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar, where were you in the period 2010 to 2015 when you spent billions of dollars, when friends of yours, Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar, packed up and went to Panama where we have no extradition treaties? Mamu, Mr. Lala, I'm calling out by name, Madam Speaker. Where was Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar in looking after the people of San Fernando West? To Senator Lakshmi Dayal, who cannot step outside of the corners of Gulfview. Beatrice Avenue is not the only place in San Fernando, Madam Speaker. Now, don't get me wrong, I have great affection for Senator Lakshmi Dayal, perhaps a little misguided, Madam Speaker, but when I tell San Fernando West, watch the UNC Koki eye, I can underwrite it and support it by the facts that I am putting forward. As the Member of Parliament for San Fernando West, I am extremely pleased to see the financial underwriting and support offered by the Minister of Finance and the Honourable Prime Minister, who is the Minister in charge of UDCOT, the Minister of Works and Transport in coordinating the relocation of the PTSC yard. You see, Madam Speaker, the month of January becomes a golden equation, November, December, and January, for the prosperity of the people of San Fernando and San Fernando West. And I am extremely pleased that thousands of jobs are there, that revenue comes from those projects. To Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar, the member for Siparia, shame on you for attempting to create fear and instability in this country, for attacking witnesses, for attacking legal proceedings, Madam Speaker. The wheels of justice may turn slowly, Madam Speaker, but they certainly turn. Somebody said to me as I end, I would not want to be Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar. and I agree. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Yes.